Alright guys, hopefully you like the background here. I know I do, very relaxing, very kinda chill, you know. Just trying new stuff out, seeing what sticks. Hey Moon Honey, how's it going? It's been a minute since I've seen you, hopefully everything's going okay. Okay. Just making sure I got everything here. Hopefully you guys can hear me. I think, yeah, I got the sound check going. Okay, perfect. Okay. All right. So, let me shuffle the cards here. Now, we all know, because of this effect I got going on, cards are going to look a little weird. Okay, and I'll explain why. We have this card here, okay? 7th Chakra, Archangel Uriel, right? There's green on the card, and because of the green, it kind of makes it see-through, okay? And you can also see where the border is that I'm doing here. But, yeah. So I will probably just tell you the cards. I'll show them, but I'll probably just tell you the cards on some of these. And we're going to do a general, and I'm glad it's going well. And yes, Moon Honey, I'm doing well too. I started doing my, started taking some of my antidepressants, and so that's been kind of a journey for me. It's been about 3 weeks, and so that's been good. And then I went and got my GED. I never graduated high school, but I did go and get my GED. And so I've been a little busy. I've been a little bit busy. But yeah, things are definitely going well. Things are moving forward. What do you think of the background? Moon Honey, do you like this? If you don't, that's okay. I will, I'll be an adult about it. Meaning I'll whine and complain, but... Yeah, exactly. Yes, woohoo, absolutely. Absolutely. That was an accomplishment for sure. Okay. Leveling up, just a little bit at a time. Little bit at a time. Gaining that EXP to get myself all set up. Alright, so we'll do Saturday and Sunday for the generals. And then we'll move into doing the lives. Floating on a raft after a shipwreck. Yeah, it kind of has that look. I can go for that. I can go for that. This water, though, it's not frigid and cold. It's very warm and inviting. The one I had before, the background I had before looked like we were in hell. And so I figured between those two, this one was probably a good option, because looking like I'm doing tarot readings in hell doesn't carry the right message. That's just me, though. All right, let's do this here. Let's move these cards along. How have your lives been going, Moon Honey? Have they been going okay? I see you on every now and again. It seems like you're getting enough people interested, so that's good. Sometimes, I mean, I feel like sometimes it's dead for me, so I was curious if you experienced that too. It's just kind of like sometimes you go live and there's just not a lot of people. Okay. I'm sorry, that's kind of funny. I mean, I shouldn't laugh, but it's good though. It's good that you get your face out there. I feel like that lets people know who they're speaking with, right? When your face wasn't being shown, it was a mystery. And so I feel like it helps people connect with you more when you show your face. Same for me, depending on what I'm doing. Yeah, I agree with that. I guess it's all about the timing. I know that I feel like between here, because YouTube goes through something too, when winter starts coming around, like the quarters, right? The quarterly seasonal change or whatever you want to call it, about September to January, it usually picks up, right? But then after that, YouTube usually goes through a slump, and generally January through March, I feel like is pretty slow. But leading up to the holidays and slightly after, YouTube is usually pretty generous, usually. And it's a seasonal thing, so it's not like a personal thing. It's just, that's always been how it is. Even for really big channels, they have a slump, is what they call it, in January, February, and March, usually. Okay, so let's get this going here. All right, so let's do, this will be for Saturday. And again. All right, so Saturday. Let's see what cards we got here. So Saturday we have got, this is, well, we're just starting with the first pile. So, oh, okay, we have got some power coming up for Saturday. So big life changes resulting from subconscious manipulation or subconscious manifestation. So something is going to be happening and pushing through energy that I feel like we've been building up. Something's going to happen to push it through on Saturday. Now, here's the interesting part. Sometimes we'll get what we want, but when we get what we want, this is the indecision card right here. When we get what we want, then we don't know what to do after that. So the indecision card to me is saying that things are happening for us. There is manifestation. Things are happening, but maybe it's time for us to realize that what we wanted to manifest for so long, that was kind of the old us that was focusing on that manifestation. And so now there could be new things to manifest. There could be new ways of manifesting, right? So let's say, for instance, we wanted to manifest like we really wanted an item, or we really wanted something, right? But then as time goes on, we don't want that anymore, but the universe is still kind of pushing that first request through. So this is kind of like we're gonna have time to really look at what we're doing. And I'll show you the other cards here too, because we have the Magician, okay? This one's in reverse, and then we have the Moon in reverse, okay? And when I see these cards right here, this is a lot of energy, and it can be subconscious manipulation. There can also be something else going on here too. We can read the cards like this. So to me, the Magician in reverse, it can be someone who takes the free will of others, or maybe we could feel like our free will is being taken, right? And then with the Moon in reverse, it could be the subconscious is ruling our lives. So there could be a strong sense of anxiety, or a strong sense of not feeling like we can move forward with what we want to do. Hence the indecision card that we have right here. I'm feeling like this is something akin to, for some reason, Spirit was showing me bread. Spirit was showing me like, that being like a symbol, so that's an interesting symbol. But I feel like it's showing me that there's a lot of energy, there's a lot of things that are rising, there's a lot of things that are coming up. So like the yeast rising in bread, like something like that. So I would feel the best thing to do on Saturday is whatever's going to happen, let it happen. And if we need to focus on new ways of being or new ways of looking at things, we can do so in a while. It's not something we have to do right now. It's not something we have to prioritize and do right this second. Okay, we can take our time and we can look at what it is we want to manifest exactly. So have that be something where we're definitely looking at that. All right, so let's look at the next cards here for Saturday. Okay, so this is good right here. So we have Queen of Wands. Okay. It's all wiggly. Okay, we have the Queen of Wands. Then we have Healer of the Ages. Then we have me disappearing. But we do have the Healer of the Ages here. And then we have Five of Cups in reverse. Okay, so Queen of Wands, Healer of the Ages, passionate, new energy coming in, Five of Cups in reverse, getting over something that could be difficult. Now, this could mean maybe there's depression, maybe there's anxiety. It's hit a point where I feel like the shadow period of working on ourselves or working on a project, I feel like that part's over. When I'm talking about the shadow, I'm talking about more of the subconscious nature. So a lot of this stems from the subconscious. A lot of this stems in a way that is making us feel like we're doing it wrong. Okay, whatever it is we feel like we could be doing, we're doing it wrong. But then I see the Healer of the Ages, I see Queen of Wands. So Saturday is going to be a day where I feel like we're going to stop being as hard on ourselves as we usually are, and we're going to focus more on what's coming to us naturally, what's coming to us in a way that is more kind of playful and fun. And we're going to be letting that kind of energy come in a little bit more, and hopefully a lot more in the future, because I feel like there's a tendency here to be way too serious. And that makes it difficult. Life, when we are serious, we become inflexible. We're no longer adaptable. We're no longer adaptive to our surroundings because we're trying to control absolutely everything that's in our surroundings. And the thing with trying to control absolutely everything is that when you're trying to control everything, you're really controlling nothing, because you're trying to take control of the present. You're trying to keep things the way that you want them to be. But what happens is that your life becomes more and more perverted and contorted. And I mean perverted in a way that it's skewed, right? And it becomes that way, and it very contorted because we're forcing something to happen for us. It's not happening organically. And when we learn to let go, and when we learn to understand that things will come and go, and that's kind of how life is, right? The only constant in life is change. When we learn about that, then we can move forward from there, and we can understand that there's an ebb and a flow. And whenever one of those is happening, that's life. That's the experience right there. So we're not doing it wrong. We're just trying to do it, right? Life is, we don't have a manual. We don't have a right way to do life, okay? We're learning. We're trying to do our best. And like I said yesterday, I feel like the only thing we take forward with us is experience and love, right? When we pass on from this life into the next life, experience and love, those are the only things that we take with us, okay? All right. So hopefully that rings true for some people. And let me see something here. Okay. All right. So let's do Sunday's reading. All right. Okay, let's shuffle these cards, see what we can get here. Okay. Hey G, welcome to the channel. Don't know if you've been here or not. So right now, I am doing the generals. I hope everything's going okay. I'm doing the generals right now. It's just Sunday, and then I'll take questions. I do ask, you can see kind of how I work, and I do ask that if you want to do a question, it'll be about $10 through Cashapp or PayPal, or $13 through Super Chat. But we can find out that information if that's something you want to do moving forward. I do charge for my readings, so if that's something you feel comfortable with, we can absolutely go forward and do that. But I do appreciate you say, hey, I hope you're doing good. Okay, perfect. It's your first time here. All right, okay. Well, welcome to the channel. Welcome, my little transient friend. Because I know of all the people you can watch, come in here. I appreciate that. I'm just going to do a general for Sunday, and then, like I said, we can do readings, or we can do. I'm also going to be doing a little bit of mediumship teaching as well, teaching the basics and the principles of mediumship and psychic ability. But let's focus on this here. All right, so let's put these cards down. Okay, so here's what we got here. So we have patience in reverse, okay? So because I'm using that screen, we have the effect of me just disappearing behind the cards. But this is patience in reverse, okay? And we'll explain that here in a second. Four of Wands upright, okay? And then we have the High Priestess. All right, and so these cards right here, these are, well, I'll explain them. So the High Priestess, this is for Sunday. This is a card that deals with psychic ability, right? Generally, when I see this card, it's a card that deals with psychic ability, the subconscious, and it's kind of the divine feminine expression of psychic ability. So what that means is like things are happening for us. There could be something happening with our intuition, but it feels like things are moving forward in a more psychic sense or in that kind of way. And I feel like when we do have Mercury in retrograde, which is what we're currently going through, and we will be going through for another, I think it's about another 10 days, 10 or 9 days, psychic ability, I feel like, sparks up around this time. And generally, we're going to be working through lessons, right? And I'll explain that here in a second. But Mercury in retrograde usually brings about things that have not been healed in us, and things keep coming up to our attention kind of in an in-your-face way when Mercury in retrograde comes around, because it doesn't want to baby us. It sort of rips the Band-Aid off quick and says, look at the injury and start healing it instead of putting a Band-Aid on it, okay? Maybe it needs stitches and we need to look at it and we need to care for it. So we have High Priestess, Four of Wands. So the Four of Wands is about structure, okay? This card here, this is about structure and manifesting. To me, this is about manifesting, but it's more about there being some sort of foundation for something that we're wanting to do. When I see patience in reverse here, it could be that we are building something and we're being impatient. We're trying to get something off the ground. Maybe we're trying to start a new project. Because when we're talking about the Four of Wands, the Wands cards can be projects and hobbies and career. And so when we're talking about this, it could be that we're impatient about starting a new project or a new kind of career or something that could be self-sustaining. I feel like we're becoming impatient. We're thinking we should be seeing results by now, and maybe we're not, right? But there's an interesting kind of story with this too. When I see patience in reverse, it reminds me of something. So I heard a story the other day, and I thought this was kind of interesting. There is a story on bamboo, okay? So when you take a bamboo seed and you plant it, the bamboo seed, you have to water it and you have to put fertilizer on it every day. And you have to do that for 5 years, okay? And in that time, there is nothing. There is nothing going on from that bamboo seed. There's nothing for 5 years. But eventually, after the 5 years, in 5 weeks' time, you can have a tree. I don't know if this part's right. I need to look it up. But I was hearing you can have a tree that grows up to 90 feet tall in 5 weeks. Or you can have a shoot or a bamboo thing that goes up to 90 feet tall. And basically what that's saying is that if we keep going and we persevere, even if there isn't anything on the surface that we can see that's happening yet, we're setting up foundational things for us to grow in the future. So it may not be immediate changes right away or anything big, but small steps over a long period of time lead to big results. Okay, so that's something we can use going forward, right? If we're talking about the growth potential here. So let's look at these other cards here. So then we have, and I'll show you these cards here. I'm just going to flip them over first. Okay, so then we have Four of Cups. Okay. There's a rat on the glass. That'd be a mighty tasty beverage right there. When rats are on the glass, you know it's going to be good. Then we have Blossoming Abundance. You guys cannot see this card hardly at all, but it does say Blossoming Abundance. It's hard to see it, but. And then we have Five of Coins in reverse. Okay. So when I see Blossoming Abundance, Five of Coins in reverse, and the Four of Cups, it's important for us to strive and to go after what we want to do. But if we're on the verge of burnout and we keep pushing ourselves, all we're doing is we're postponing the resting period. We're postponing relaxing, and that's going to lead to burnout. That's going to lead to a situation where we're just not going to feel comfortable. We're not going to feel like we're doing anything. We're not going to feel comfortable, and then we're going to be forced to rest. And then during that time, the whole time, we're just going to be beating ourselves up anyway. So it's important for us to realize kind of what's going on here. So Four of Cups is rest, okay? So Sunday, if you can, make it a rest day. Make it something that is restful, because resting is part of being productive. And human beings, right? That's all we're supposed to be, is human beings, meaning that we are being. That's all a human has to do in order to, I think, just exist. All we have to do is be. But we've been put in this society where we should be, human doing, right? We should be human doings instead of human beings. And that led to a kind of a way of thinking where productivity was the only positive thing that we could do with our lives. If we're not being productive, then we are actually draining society, or we're not moving forward in things. But I don't think that's the case at all. There's a lot of people that don't contribute to society in that way, and they are no more or no less human and living their lives than we are. So that's something we need to kind of keep in mind as we're talking about this. Rest, if you can, and realize that there is no rush, and there is no need for us to keep going at such a drastic pace. Okay. All right. Hey, Jenny G, how are you doing? Okay. Let's move these here. Hopefully it's all going good. Good, good. I'm feeling good. A little tired, but other than that, feeling pretty good. Hey, Rhubarb, how's it going? Thank you, Manoj Kumar, for subscribing. Good, good. Yeah, everything's going good. Just trying out some new things here. Hopefully you guys like the background. I'm hoping that's something that you guys enjoy. I'm going to try different backgrounds as we move forward. Yeah, absolutely. If you don't have health, it's hard to have anything else. Absolutely. It's pretty difficult. Let's put it that way. Okay, so if you guys want to do questions, we can do questions. So it's $13 for if you do a super chat, or it's $10 if you do Cashapp or PayPal, and I can put that up right here. Good, good. Let me do this here. No, that's the wrong one. Yeah, this one right here. There we go. Okay. All right, so like it says up here, if you guys want to, right now we don't have anyone kind of in the list, so whoever donates first, you guys get priority. But with that being said, we can just talk if that's something you guys want to do until someone wants to come forward and do a paid reading. I'm just going to take my phone here. Okay. All right, so we were talking about something yesterday, and that was developing psychic ability, developing mediumship. Don't know if you guys are interested in that, but that's something we were talking about, and kind of how you can pursue that, how you can kind of go after that. But I talk about it in a way that's like kind of assuming that we're just beginning, assuming that we're just starting out. That's kind of where I'm talking about it, not like we're seasoned and we're going into it like that. So it's more of like a beginner's course, or like a just kind of a learning course, right? Just barely kind of dipping our feet in. And so I had some notes here. So I made some notes. This one is part 2. I did part 1 yesterday. Okay. Mediumship Development part 2. And this will talk a little bit about, so when we're talking about mediumship development versus psychic development, clairaudience too. Yeah, I explained that in the last class that I did. But yeah, clairaudience is definitely one of the abilities. Let's see. So the clair abilities are right here. Okay, so I have clair ability definitions. Do you guys want to hear those? If we're starting on this. Because this is an interesting, I mean, these are interesting topics, regardless to me, right? I'm actually going to be right back, you guys. Going to get me some water in my bottle here. So I'll be right back. Everyone sit tight and give me a couple minutes. I'll be right back. Okay. Okay. So, as we are talking about this, so clair ability definitions, right? So, clairvoyance is clear seeing, all right? I look over here because that's where the screen is. I need to look over here. I will do it. Okay, so I can do this. All right, so clairvoyance, clear seeing. Let me put this right here. Actually, I realize I can't do that. So trusting your abilities, that's something, rhubarb, that's something that only comes with time. The only way that you can trust your abilities is to kind of just go out there and not be afraid of getting it wrong. And that takes time, that takes practice. It's kind of like you have to get used to throwing yourself in situations that make you uncomfortable. Eventually, you can see them as opportunities for growth instead of like ego-crushing experiences. But at first, it is kind of working with the ego, and the ego does get bruised. I'm not going to lie, I'm not going to say that's the easy part. I've had a lot of no's, okay? But most of the time, when I get a no, it stings for a second, and then we can go on to that. 20 plus years now. Okay. So trusting our abilities, it comes from practice, and it comes from kind of trusting the self. That's one thing that we need to work on. And I talk about this. Actually, I haven't talked about this that much, but one thing that we can have when a medium is developing is you have mediumship development, and then you have mediumship unfoldment. Okay, mediumship development is when we're learning from a teacher, we're learning from a class or a mentor. You know, we could be reading something, but it's kind of like we're learning things that aren't necessarily from us or our spirit guides, but it's from other things in the environment. So like I said, mentors, teachers, classes, online or physical. Then unfoldment is kind of like if you imagine your mediumship ability, your psychic ability. If you could imagine that, you could see it as a situation where in one way you're developing, you're becoming stronger, you're learning new things. Unfoldment is kind of like the psyche or the psychology of the medium. You're going into things that have happened to you that were traumatic. You're going into biases that we've had. We're working through those kinds of issues. So that's what I'm talking about there. If a medium wants to be very successful, we need to work on the self, and we need to work on kind of what's blocking us from achieving what it is that we want to do. And that comes, again, that comes with practice and time. And we talk a little bit about that. But I feel like I don't need to go over part 1 again. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to go to part 2. I'm going to talk about the clairs here. But after I talk about the clairs, I'm going to go straight into mediumship development part 2. Okay. So clairability definitions. Clairvoyance. Clear seeing. This involves seeing an image flash in your mind, possibly while not thinking anything at all. And all of a sudden, there can be a very detailed image that just kind of pops in and then leaves. These images can be very symbolic and personal. They can even be based on witty puns, such as, thank you, Olivia, such as two eyes looking at each other and then putting this puzzle together as people seeing eye to eye. Okay, Olivia, we can do that. All right, so I'm going to address Olivia's question. We'll see if we can get back to this, but I'm going to address her question for right now. So let me do this here. And thank you, Olivia, for stopping by again. And let me put you down here. Okay, so let's see what's going on with James and see what we can do with that. Hopefully everything's going well, Olivia. I feel like I lost you on the last live, so hopefully everything's going well. I know you said the connection was kind of iffy, so. Okay. Let's shuffle these cards here. I actually like using these ones, the Energy Oracle. So as we're shuffling here, go over here. Okay. All right, so why did you and James break up from his point of view? All right. Why did you and James break up from his point of view? So here's what I've got here. So we get contract in reverse. Okay. Hard to see the card, I know, but we get contract in reverse. And then we get the garden and the gate. Again, hard to see these cards. There's a lot of green, and I have a green screen on, and so. And then we have Goddess of the Moon in reverse. Okay. It was not a good day. Let's just. Okay. Okay. Hopefully things are getting better, Olivia. And hopefully this helps give shed some light on this. So contract in reverse and Goddess of the Moon in reverse. To me, this feels like this person didn't know how to. I feel like there's something here like this person didn't know how to give you what you needed. But if we're looking at it from his point of view, it would be that this person didn't know possibly why things weren't working. I feel like this person was oblivious in a lot of ways. And it feels to me like there's something here where we get the garden and the gate. Hard to see what the card actually looks like because of the green screen. Good. I'm glad you're okay now. I'm glad you're feeling better. That's the thing with these emotional states. They come and go, and I feel like you understand that. I'm learning that myself, and so kind of fun, I guess, in some ways. Not really, but new way of looking at the self. We have the garden and the gate here. And this card is a little girl, or she looks like a little girl, but maybe it's more of like a young woman. And she's looking over the gate, and she's looking towards something that could possibly be out there, something like greener pastures, things are on the other side. I feel like, James, there was a relationship here. I feel like there was something happening, but it feels like maybe things were moving too quickly or things were happening too fast, and he wanted to take a step back. But in his mind, he's thinking that how would I put this? Give me 1 second here. I keep hearing the term "if the shoe is on the other foot," if the shoe is on the other foot. So I'm feeling like James felt that he just didn't understand what was going on in the relationship, and it's not your job to explain what's going on. But I'm feeling like there was this tendency to. Sorry, there's a bug flying around. I feel like there was a tendency for you to do most of the work in the relationship, or kind of working on things in the background, and this person didn't understand, I guess, their role in the relationship. And that wasn't your fault. That wasn't anything that happened, but that's what I'm feeling happened here. And I assume because you're talking to me about this, was there no contact from James? Did he just kind of leave and not explain anything? I'm honestly feeling like the primary reason why it happened the way it did was because I'm getting a feeling like there was some selfishness here, right? There was a sense of this person not letting you in, or this person kind of closing down their inner world. And because of that, this person didn't know how to express themselves. Hey, Brenda, how are you doing? Hopefully everything's going well today, my friend. the contract, this in reverse, the contract in reverse, this was a situation where I feel like the universe gives us these different situations. It gives us these different ways of looking at things. And I feel like the way I would see this is that the universe is kind of showing us things that we don't want in our lives so we can attract the things that we do. And I know that's kind of that can feel like a kick in the teeth sometimes. That feels like it's kind of a hard lesson to learn. But the universe keeps showing us reflections of the things that, okay. See, and I'm sorry to hear that. I'm glad the reading resonates, but I'm sorry to hear that because that's a painful experience, right? But the one thing, Brenda, or not Brenda, the one thing, Olivia, that I feel like is very important, and I'm glad you're doing good too, Brenda. But the one thing I feel is very important is that this doesn't fall on you. I'm not feeling like this is a you thing. I'm feeling like if we get involved with men who are emotionally unavailable, they can only meet, a person can only meet us as far as they can meet themselves. And if the emotional world hasn't been developed and you have a developed emotional world, it makes it so the other person, they can't quite be in that same realm as you, right? And they eventually start backing off because their emotional side hasn't developed. It hasn't gone past that certain stage. And a lot of men are told to not develop it. They're told to not be emotional. They're told to not develop that. I've talked about it on the channel before. When I was growing up, there was only two appropriate emotions for a man. Those two emotions were anger and happiness. Okay? You can't be sad. God forbid you're scared. You know, and there's so many other stipulations that you can't do to be a man, whatever that is. The toxic masculine energy, the toxic male. Apparently there's criteria, and I was stuck in that, so I can understand that kind of world. That being said, it is up to the person to work on that. It's not up to you. It's not up to anybody else. It's up to the person to work on their kind of situation, right? Because it's not our job to work on other people. Working on ourselves, great. If someone wants help from us and they're happy that we're giving them help, great, we can help them. But if we're forcing our hand and we're really trying to make things work and the other person's being incredibly resistant, you know, that's when we have to kind of back off that way. But primarily, I do feel that there was emotional stunting here, and this is a situation, again, where we can learn what it is we don't want in a partner so that we can find out what we do want. And we can learn, it kind of teaches us a lot about ourselves. It's in a painful way. It's in a kind of a raw, vulnerable, painful kind of way. But at the same time, it's real. It's a real way to learn what's going on and how we can, you know, make things better in that way. So ultimately, if I had to say, the main reason why is because I feel like there could be a fear of commitment. There could be a fear of this person going in, them not understanding themselves. And so if they can't understand themselves, how could they expect to understand you? I feel like there's a tendency to get involved and then they pull back because they don't realize that there is an emotional world and that it's important to be in touch with that. And when a woman or another partner, it doesn't just have to be a woman, it can be a man too. But when one of the partners is closed off and the other one has to constantly reach and try and pull stuff out, eventually that puts a huge, huge strain on the relationship. The other person doesn't want to talk about it, and the one that's trying to get information is just saying, I just want to help, I just want to hear what's going on with you. And ultimately that leads to a pretty big disconnect. The one person feels like they're being nagged, okay, and they're not. You're just wondering about what's going on in their world. They don't feel like they can share that. Again, this is not like feel bad for them kind of a thing. They need to work on their own stuff. But that's kind of where it comes from a basic level, okay? That's what I'm seeing here. Awesome, Brenda. Okay, I'll be here. But does that make sense, Olivia? Okay, okay, Olivia. So I'm gonna say this right here. So James, and please let me know if I'm right or if I'm wrong. Okay, moving forward, so that way I can understand where to go from there. Um, so I have a feeling that happened with James. I have a feeling that you guys were probably in pretty deep, right? You guys were probably getting to know each other and trying to understand each other. And I imagine that you were developing strong feelings, or you had very strong feelings. And when he did what he did, and there was the leaving, or there was the breakup, whatever you'd want to call it, I feel like maybe that triggered something from childhood, right? And because of that triggering event from childhood, that's why we can't stop thinking about him. It's kind of like when he did what he did, when he did what he did, we said, okay, all right, and we'll look at that too. Thank you very, very much, Olivia. Hold on one second. Let me do this here. All right, and we'll address that question. I'm gonna still talk on the one we were on before, and then we'll go to the next question. Okay. So there can be things that happen when we were younger, and because of those things that happen, like let's say, for instance, we had a parent or our parents, there was like abandonment issues that happened, and then we have a partner, and when they are with us, they treat us in a similar way, and then they leave us, they abandon us in a similar way. And because of that, it triggers a traumatic response. And that's why it's hard for us to stop thinking about them, is because they hit a trigger point, they hit a trauma point. Usually that's kind of what's happening there. And once we get to know ourselves, we get to work on the issues that are kind of causing these kinds of scenarios, we stop attracting those kinds of people that would kind of abandon us or trigger our trauma, because we start to realize what it is that we would want to look for in a partner, because we understand ourselves better, right? So let's look at the next question here. Oh. All right, let me shuffle these cards again. Let me take another drink here. All right. So Olivia is wondering, she's wondering if James still loves her. Let's see what we get here. Shuffling the cards here, so hold on. Okay, so does James still love you? Let's look at that. The exact same feeling. Okay. Hello, Jalissa. How are you doing? I'm just going to repeat the same thing. Unfortunately, you're 100% correct, but I miss him too much. I know I will never be able to move on. I know it because it's been years and I still have the exact same feeling. So that's where we can sort of look at this here. So Olivia, if it's okay with you, we're going to do this reading, okay? I am doing good, Jalissa. Welcome to the channel. Pop a seat and you can see how I do my readings here with Olivia, to the point where I feel like we're still together. So there's a pretty strong connection there, and I can understand that. So here's what I would want to do. Olivia, let's do this. Let's do the reading here. Let's do this reading. And then I would want to do, if you're okay with it, it seems like your connection is better this time around. Would you want to do a little bit of energy work, maybe 5 minutes of some energy work, and we can work on kind of revealing what needs to be revealed, shedding some light on some things, and we can understand that a little bit. Thank you very much, Jalissa. I appreciate that. But that's up to you if you want to do that, Olivia. We don't have to, but I feel like that can be something to help us move on, and that won't cost anything. You've already done quite a bit, so we can do some energy work together, okay? If you're up for it. But so does James still love you? Let's look at this. We have the Sun card here. Doesn't really show up, but that is the Sun card, okay? That's a good card. Then we have the 7th chakra, Archangel Uriel. And then we have the 2nd chakra, Archangel Ariel. So there was a strong connection here. There was a very, very strong connection. The 7th chakra is the universal kind of energetic connection. The 2nd chakra, Archangel Ariel, that can be the chakra. It's a chakra that's like the intimacy expression, okay, or like a sexual expression kind of card. So there's a lot of energy here dealing with this kind of stuff. The way I would describe this is I feel like there's emotions. I feel like there's feelings here, but I also feel that from James' perspective, it's kind of like there's not a grasp on the emotional concept. Like, imagine, if you will, Olivia, the way you feel about the connection. You feel strongly about it. You have that sense of, kind of a strong sense of, I guess, passion or desire, right? And I feel like this person doesn't have that same kind of feeling, like the emotional depth that you have. I feel like if your emotions were an ocean, this person would be like a puddle. In comparison, it feels to me like there's something here where if this person just chooses to leave you high and dry, that to me is not the best kind of connection. But there is something here. We did get the 7th chakra, Archangel Uriel right here. This one is interesting. Like I said, it's the universal energy. So this connection here was to teach us lessons in what we would want for a partner, or in what we would kind of tolerate or expect in a partner. Now, he didn't do his part the way that we would want to, but from the connection, we did get to learn what we were looking for and what we would want and what we wouldn't want in a partner. Unfortunately, the game of life is kind of we get personally involved, right? Unfortunately, we do get personally involved in our lessons, in these endeavors, and we do take things very, very personally. But I feel like this was more meant to be kind of a teaching experience where other things could happen for us and other things could move on for us, right? And that's something that I understand is difficult here. So I feel like there's still some emotion. I feel like there's still some emotions here, but ultimately it feels like I feel like you're wanting something from this connection, and I don't feel like this person could give it to you, at least at this point in time. So that's kind of where I'm coming from there. I'm not saying it'll never happen, but I feel like it's something where you're really wanting a connection, and I'm not feeling like this person's that same way. This person feels like they're not in the same kind of headspace. I do feel like they still think about you. I do feel like there's that kind of there, but it feels like he's very emotionally standoffish and reserved. And so when I'm looking at trying to connect with that energy, it just feels kind of like the person's putting up a wall. And so I'm not getting anything more than just kind of being closed off and not wanting to connect, right? And so I feel like even if this person was next to you and you were talking to this person, you're someone, Olivia, I feel like you're someone who is emotionally progressive, and as time goes on, you're going to learn how to feel more, you're going to learn how to be more in the moment and more kind of expressive with your emotions. I feel like he's regressing, if that makes any sense. I feel like he's trying to stay further away from his emotions. I don't know if you guys were together, if he did anything to distract himself constantly or escape from reality in any way, but it feels to me like there's a running from this person runs from their inner world, and at one point you wanted to run to their inner world because you wanted to see it, you wanted them to express it, you wanted to share that with them because you shared yours with him, and he just wasn't able to do that in return. So that's kind of what I'm getting here. I don't see this, though. I see this as something you can work through, and I do feel like there can be other things coming up. I know that some of these relationship wounds can be very deep, but they're not meant to leave us kind of scattered forever. Eventually we can pick up the pieces and we can move on from there. But I do understand these are pretty difficult concepts to work through. So hopefully what I'm saying makes sense. I kind of say how it is and not, I know you're probably wanting to hear something a little different, but hopefully that kind of explains it a little bit more. Okay. Hold on one second, Jalissa. So I'm waiting to see if Olivia's going to respond here. So, Jalissa, just so you know, I charge, it's $13.99 if you go through Super Chat, but if you want to do Cash App or PayPal, it's $10 a question. So you'd actually save a little bit of money, and my Cash App and PayPal are up here. So if that would be something you would want to do, we can absolutely do that. I'm still waiting to hear, though, if Olivia is there. But if you want to do that, we can, and hopefully you can read these okay. If not, I can type it out and we can go from there. But that saves you a little money, and then if you do Cash App or PayPal, if for some reason I'm not able to connect, I can give you a refund, okay? I can't do that through Super Chat. I generally do connect, though, but I just have that as an option, just in case. Okay, hold on one second. Give me 1 second here, guys. Okay. All right, so yeah, okay, so Olivia, I'm gonna be moving on to possibly someone else's question here, if you're wanting to do that. So, Jalissa, if you're wanting to, you can pay and then you can ask your question. Or if it's a general question, meaning that everyone could benefit from the answer and it's not like a personal question, then you can ask that for free. But if it's a personal question like love, life, or finances or something like that, then I charge for that. So hopefully that makes sense. I try to be fair with that. let's do this. All right, so we were talking about mediumship ability, developing psychically, and kind of the different scenarios or the different kinds of situations that go on there. And okay, wow, well, I don't know because he was so crazy about me. Then when I said I was leaving, he did 2 different tattoos on 2 different parts of his body with the same name, Monica. So, okay, I can understand that. So just so I understand that the tattoos, the name Monica, right? That's your name's Olivia, right? So he did a lot of things. Okay, he did. All right, so that's something that I feel like that would be kind of a, not kind of, that would be a difficult situation to work through. So I imagine he took your trust and kind of ran that through the ringer, so to speak. Just moving this over here. Okay. Because as we're talking about these kinds of emotionally stunted men and the way they do things, the way they kind of, because when I do this on this channel, a lot of women that come on here, I feel like you guys, the women, are very open, and you're ready to communicate, and you're ready to work through anything that needs to be worked on, and there's this kind of noble pursuit of that kind of thing, working together. And I feel like men take that and they use that and they abuse that, right? Okay, the kind of things where you couldn't have any doubt of his unconditional love for me. So just so that I understand, you said when you said that you were leaving, that's when we saw that. So why did you leave? Why did you leave the relationship? Or what happened to make that sort of take part there? Because I know these are kinds of difficult topics to talk about, but I'm just curious. If you want to, you can shed some more light on it. But I also understand these can be kind of personal subjects. But I feel in a way when we talk about these kinds of things in a deeper way, there can be some sort of release of this kind of energy, right? Or some sort of resolution in some sense. Sure. Yeah, I can do the number that's on the card. Absolutely. Let me shuffle and then I'll tell you the number, okay? Actually, my energy cards, those will have the numbers more in the Yeah, okay, I'm going to shuffle the energy cards. Those all have numbers at the top, so let me do that for you. Okay, Olivia is wanting a number. Please, universe, give her a number that will help her and guide her towards healing and understanding. Okay, something that helps her with truth and something that helps her to understand the situation so that things can appear clear for Olivia. Give me just a second here, my friend, as I shuffle and get these all shuffled. Let's see what card we get. All right, let's do 2 more shuffles here. Okay, so the card we have is this one. And it's hard to see, but I'll tell you what the number is. It says 38 on the card. It's hard to see because of the green screen. Maybe if I just do this for a second. Don't think that makes it any, no. Well, no, it's too blurry. Hold on 1 second. How can I? Oh, I got it. I think I go here. Nope. 38 is the number, but I want to show you. There we go. Okay, so 38 is the number right at the top there, and this is 4th chakra Archangel Raphael, which is about the heart chakra. Okay, so 38, both of those add up to 11. If you're doing numerology, I don't know if that's what you're doing. You don't have to tell me. That can be your private thing, but I was just throwing that out there. All right. And now I will go here. Enable that again. Okay. So hopefully that helps, Olivia. All about healing the heart and the heart space. Sometimes these kinds of things that we go through, it seems like there's very little progress or there's very little work that's being done, but I do feel like there's going to be progress for you. And I feel like it's too soon to say that you'll never get over it. I just feel like there's trauma, there's things wrapped around this, and so it seems like a bigger thing. But I do feel like this is something that you can work through as time goes on. Because nothing was wrong with you in this situation, even though I can feel that sometimes it's easier to blame ourselves because the other person isn't there. But I just don't want you to do that. I feel like if we're hard on ourselves, that just makes it difficult, you know? And we can eventually speak more kind to ourselves, but it does take time. It takes practice to use that kind voice to speak to ourselves with. But I hope that helps. I hope that sheds some light, or that just helps you in some way. 1 second here. Does that help shed some light on the situation, Olivia? Okay. Okay, so if anyone else has a question here, we can move on to another question, or we can just do some of the mediumship reading stuff I was talking about, or we can do kind of like general questions. And when I say general questions, guys, feel free to ask me a question for free if it involves something that everyone can benefit from. If you have a question like, I'm wondering about dream analysis, or I'm wondering about tarot, or I'm wondering about psychic ability or mediumship or ghosts or spirits or whatever you want to say, if you have those kinds of questions, right, then we can just talk about that, kind of have a friendly conversation. If it's a personal question, though, I do ask for money for those, but not for the other ones. Just because I want you guys to be able to talk to me where it's not like, money, please. You know, I want to be able to talk with you guys. But the personal questions, you know, I feel like that's fair. Okay, so we were going to talk about some of the Claire abilities here. Actually, I don't know if Rhubarb is still here or not. If you're there, Rhubarb, I can go into the definitions here, but okay, sorry, okay. Some ID as well, sorry, but yeah. Second one is Monica. Ask my mom. Okay. All right, so I can understand that now. That makes more sense. So I'm wondering if okay, Rhubarb is still here. Okay. All right, so we'll talk a little bit about these psychic abilities. But all right, so Monica. Okay, now I can understand that. I'm still going to call you Olivia. I won't ignore it, right? You'll always be Olivia to me, so hopefully you don't mind being called Olivia. But yeah, I mean, these kinds of things, they are, and I know it sounds kind of, I guess, uncaring or crass, right? But each of us has things in life that we're given as like a lessons. I know I keep saying that. I know that seems like I'm a broken record, but we learn a lot from these kinds of situations. We learn more about pain. We learn more about ourselves from pain than we do from anything else. And I feel like it may be a deep hurt, but because of that, there can be a deeper understanding of exactly what's going on. And we can undo some things. We can undo the trauma as time goes on, right? So that's something we can use to go forward. It's not all, there's a silver lining to the cloud, so to speak. I don't think we're just meant to feel pain and that's it. I think there's always something that can be gained, always something that can be learned from the pain that we have experienced, okay? All right, so Rhubarb, so we had the Claires here. Okay, so Clairvoyance. Hi, RS, how are you doing? Clairvoyance, clear seeing. This involves seeing an image flash in your mind. Okay, so that's the one thing I want to talk about with psychic ability, is that imagine this kind of situation. If you want to know if you can trust something or not, when we're talking about clairvoyance, we're talking about psychic ability. Hey, RS, so if you want to, I'm talking a little bit about the Claire abilities. If you want to, though, we can do a reading. I do charge. It's either $13.99 through Super Chat or $10 a question, and you can use Cash App and PayPal. So Cash App and PayPal are $10 a question, but Super Chat, because they do take a percentage of the money, I do ask for more from that. So right up here, and you can also go down into a link in the description, RS. So there should be a link in the description where you can see the different. In fact, let me do this because I've got it right here. Hold on, my friend. I can show you this really quick. Let me make sure this works first for me, and then I'll send it to you. So hold on 1 second. Okay. All right, so here you go right here. That should take you to either Cash App or PayPal, and then you can pay that way. You might have to set up an account. It doesn't take too long to do that, though. But using those links, so if you go Cash App or PayPal, $10, okay? But if you want to just do Super Chat through YouTube, that would be $13.99. So it's up to you kind of how you would want to pay, but you do save more money if you just do Cash App or PayPal. Okay, so we have, okay, that's what I was going to say. So when we're talking about clairvoyant images, when we're talking about things coming in to our head, to our mind's eye, so to speak, imagine if our mind was completely empty, like we're going to do a meditation, or we're just kind of sitting there, our mind is completely empty. All of a sudden, we're not thinking about anything, our mind is clear. All of a sudden, a very detailed image pops in our head, okay? That's something being planted in our heads that's not our own thoughts. That's when you know it's psychic ability. When something comes in that's not your own thoughts, that's when you know it's psychic ability. Now, or mediumship, okay? Now, if all we're doing all day long is thinking about our thoughts, and we don't give any room for anything else, it's going to be difficult to give psychic readings because we're constantly in a chattered state. We're constantly distracting ourselves, or we're constantly ruminating on something, or we're constantly doing something. That's why, in a way, meditation can help psychic ability, because we can focus on quieting the mind and allowing ourselves to gently focus on whatever it is that we're perceiving in the moment. Because psychic ability can happen generally in stages, and I'll explain what I mean by that. So the more you too, RS, you have a good day, okay? And you can just listen to me talk if you want. It's not like if you don't pay, you can't be here. Like you can contribute and talk with other people and do stuff like that if that's something you want to do. But I understand it takes time. And when it's meant to be, it'll be, right? So I'll be here, okay? I'm here 3 days a week. But feel free to pop a squat and stay a while if you feel like that's something you want to do. I never use the term pop a squat in actual conversation, just so you guys are aware. I'm not that weird. But when I'm talking to you guys, apparently I turn into like a 90s dad. And I don't know how to not be that, so we're gonna kind of go with it. All right, so something pops in our head that is not our own thought, fully formed thought. Okay, perfect, RS. Go ahead, just listen for now, because we're going to be talking about developing psychic ability until someone else wants to come forward and pay for a question. In the meantime, we're just going to talk about this. So let me give you an example. All right, because I've done work with psychic ability, I've done work with mediumship, and so I can understand both of these kinds of worlds, and I can give you guys some examples. Now, when I give you an example, that does not mean that it would be the same for you. What that means is that it was how it happened for me. Okay, each person is different. Each person has a different kind of psychic fingerprint, or as I call it, a soul expression. And when we're talking about the different fingerprint or the soul expression, it's important to realize that each of these expressions is different, okay? So, when we're talking about psychic ability, I'll have something. I'll give this example. When I was doing a mediumship reading, okay, and I had someone who passed of cancer, my mouth, I actually had this right here. So this isn't clairvoyance, but this is one of the other clairs. So clairgustance, okay, clairgustance is clear tasting. So being able to taste something. It's being able to use your senses in a psychic way. So I was able to taste something, and the way I knew it was cancer, and I had this happen a few times, the way I knew the person passed of cancer was because I could taste something very rotten in my mouth. I could taste, I don't even know how to describe it. I brushed my teeth before I did my session, but I could taste something very rotten, very foul in my mouth. And I mean, it left a horrible taste, right? But it only lasted for, I don't know, 2 or 3 seconds. It wasn't a long time, and then it just dissipated. It was gone. Those kinds of strong impressions, that's psychic ability. But as we get more and more in tune with our ability, they usually become more and more subtle because we don't need the fanfare of the really, really big experiences, because sometimes that can throw us off of our game because it is so powerful. So they do become more subtle as time goes on, generally speaking. Okay, so hold on 1 second. Let me help you, buddy. Let me help you. Come here. You can go out. Okay, so with psychic ability, with having these impressions happen, okay, as long as our mind's clear and we're not thinking of anything and we get impressions, then we know something's up, okay? Now, and when I talk about something being up, imagine you're just sitting there, your mind's empty, and all of a sudden a very, very detailed image of a city pops into your head, or a car or something pops into your head, right? And it was out of nowhere. It was not your thought, okay? When that happens, that's usually psychic or a spirit trying to communicate with us, and they use symbols. They use symbols like cars, or they'll use things that possibly you know very well. When we're talking about communicating with spirits, they're going to communicate with us through the things that we know. So whatever we're learning in life, or however we're expressing ourselves in life, that's how spirit's going to communicate with us, because we have a rich library and a rich symbolic language with the things that we're passionate about, and spirit will feel comfortable in communicating in those ways. So that being said, some spirits feel much more comfortable communicating with one medium to another, I think because the medium's lexicon, or the medium's symbolic language, lines up with how that spirit would like to express themselves, and the spirit feels comfortable doing so. Hopefully that makes sense. I just got to turn this alarm off, so hold on. There we go. Are you guys following me so far? I know it can be kind of a big topic, a big subject. I'm trying to break it down. If you do have any questions on this, RS, if you have any questions on it, please feel free to ask. The questions like this, if you want to ask about these topics, these are free. So please feel free to ask questions. And then we can kind of go from there. Because I know when we're talking about psychic ability and we're talking about developing, it can be a very confusing path. And if we can do anything to streamline that process just a little bit, because when I was trying to learn this, I had a lot of ups and downs. I had a lot of things I had to figure out for myself. And I feel like if we can speed that process up, it makes it so you get to the good stuff a little bit quicker. Okay, so I'll come back. We'll do a little bit more reading. Okay, but I'm gonna leave for just a second. I'm gonna go to the bathroom, and when I come back, you guys will continue on with some of this stuff. Okay, if you have a question, again, a general question that's on the topic we're talking about, or something else that's similar but not a personal question, please feel free to ask it. Have you experienced spirit portals? Okay, good question. That's a good question. So RS, I'll be right back. Okay. And after I come back, then we'll address that question. All right. That is a really good question. So give me 1 second and I will be back. All right, RS, I am back. Coming at you live, I hope. Let's see what we can come up with here. So, you asked, have you experienced spirit portals? Okay, so that's an interesting question. I do feel like when we're talking about, especially when we're talking about spirit portals, it's kind of like we're talking about different thresholds from one area to the next. Okay, so this can be something that looks like we can be talking about doorways, like physical doorways. We can be talking about different ways that spirits can kind of interact, right? Generally, there's a threshold and there can be a spirit portal or a place of high activity. Have I experienced one of those myself? I feel like I have it to an extent, maybe like a transient spirit portal, like something that felt like it was moving. Um, Before I was ever doing mediumship, years before I ever started doing mediumship, or was looking into that kind of realm, I had an experience where I felt a mass of spiritual energy. And when I say a mass of it, I don't mean like one entity, I mean several entities at one point coming through me, like coming through my energy. And I wish we had it on, I wish I still had it on video or because we recorded it. People were recording as things were going on because they were doing an investigation, a paranormal investigation, and I said it's here, and right when I said it's here, you heard, and the room was completely quiet, but right when I said it's here, you heard a whoosh on the recorder that we had, and it was this loud whooshing sound that came into the room, and right when that happened, all of the hair on my upper body started standing up, and it was a very powerful feeling. Um, to this day, never felt anything like that. It felt unbelievable. I've never felt that. It was several spirits um, kind of coalesced into one, but a spirit portal, that kind of sounds like a situation where there could be a definite spirit portal. So I have experienced it, but I have not experienced anything with spirit portals in a quite a long time. So hopefully that answers the question, because this was probably like 2010, so it's probably been 10 or 11 years that I experienced that. Um, but hopefully that helps answer the question. I do remember though, as I was working with these spirits and talking with these spirits, I remember after, when I was leaving the location, I felt an immense sense of anger, and like I felt like that place, it took something from me in a way, and I was kind of trapped in this way of thinking. I haven't gone back to this location. It's in my town that I live in. I have not gone back to the location because when I left 10, 11 years ago, it put me in a mood that I'd never experienced before. It messed with me in a way. And so there's some power out there, things that we definitely don't understand, and whatever that was, um, definitely would not want to experience that again. Pretty powerful stuff. And I don't know if it could have been a bunch of spirits that were in pain or a bunch of spirits that were going through different things. I don't think it was necessarily, I don't feel like this mass that I felt was negative in the way that it was trying to hurt me or harm me. But what I feel was that this mass had no other way to express itself other than through me. And maybe there was anger around that. Maybe there was anger. Maybe there was a sense of like wanting to grab a hold of something and use it as a mouthpiece, or wanting to have something that finally felt sensitive enough to express it, to come through. But the only thing I felt, because I was still very new to this, was that presence and that sense of like, this is a lot. This is a lot. And I've of course felt presences since then, but nothing, as far as I can recall, nothing even comes close um, to that experience that I had. And honestly, I don't know. I don't know if it's I don't know if that's what you would necessarily call a spiritual portal, but that was what it was for me. So RS, hopefully that answers that question. But yeah, I mean that's kind of the situation there. So all right, I'm gonna put this up here. You're welcome, RS. Do you have any other questions? I can talk long enough for both of us, so if you have a question, I'd be more than happy to yak your ear off about it, because I'm pretty good at doing that. But let me ask about you, actually, RS, if that's okay. Are you into these spiritual concepts? Are you into do you do mediumship or any psychic ability, or is this kind of an avenue that you've gone into before? I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I'm curious with people that watch my videos. I kind of want to know what's going on with you guys, if that's okay. And oh, okay, so there's this class, and then I have my other one. Let me do this here. Okay. All right, so I feel like when we talk about these spiritual concepts, I do feel like everyone has the ability to express themselves in a spiritual way, but I feel like few people kind of look into that expression further, because you can go very deep. Soledone, just a singles reading for Gemini. You don't want something more specific, like something for you specifically? Because generally, well, I'll just do this. Generally, these are my prices right here. Actually, where did I? Hold on. There it is. So these are usually my prices right here. One question for 10 or 3 questions for 25. So if you feel like that's something we could do, if you put up a little bit more, okay, we could do something a little more personal that way. The way it is now, I generally don't read for $2. So, and I can't give a refund for the $2. So if you want to put up another 8 or 9, we can go into more detail and it could be more specific. So that's up to you. And generally, I do Cashapp and PayPal just in case something happens. I can't do a reading. I can give you a refund as well. So if you want to do that, Cashapp or PayPal, we can do that. Okay. So, what was I saying? I was talking about something. Okay, so with the spiritual abilities, the soul expression, right? What's interesting about these spiritual abilities is that they come from primarily they come from the solar plexus, right? And especially with mediumship ability, it's the solar plexus. The solar plexus is the third chakra. The solar plexus is the chakra that deals with willpower, determination, sticking to your guns, and kind of going after what you want, right? That's the solar plexus chakra. Now, when we're talking about mediumship, we're talking about letting something come into us. We're using the solar plexus chakra kind of mixed with the heart chakra. So if the solar plexus chakra is going after what we want in life, then the heart chakra is letting ourselves let go of all the expectations that we're kind of expecting. It's like letting things happen for us. So the solar plexus chakra is like a closed fist that's getting ready to do something, where the heart chakra is like an open hand that's getting ready to receive something. Okay, so one is doing and the other is kind of pursuing, or one is being and the other is pursuing. Okay, so the heart is just being, the heart is just allowing things to come to us, and the solar plexus is driving us forward. Okay, and the solar plexus is kind of like the ultimate expression of the ego, I would say, because it's willpower. It's about going after what you want, right? The first chakra is about foundation and security. The second chakra is realizing we have choices and free will. The third chakra is sticking to our choices that we made in the second chakra and then making an expression from there. The fourth chakra is realizing that we cannot accomplish everything through force alone. And then from there, we enter the more spiritual chakras. The fifth chakra is expressing ourselves in a way that we feel comfortable, but we don't limit how other people are speaking either. So we're allowing ourselves to speak our truth, and other people can speak their truth, and we're not trying to interrupt that. That's a true expression of the throat chakra. The third eye chakra is to be able to see beyond the Maya, or the illusion, the illusionary world. So this world here, personally, I believe this to be an illusion. You know, maybe a lot of people don't like to hear that, but I don't think that it's an illusion that we don't learn anything from. I think it's actually a very powerful way for us to learn lessons through these kind of concentrated ways of living, right? We don't get a lot of time on this planet, but, you know, we get just enough to learn lessons to kind of do that before we head back off into the ethers, so to speak. Again, this is how I feel. This is what I think. Not saying it's the truth, just saying that's kind of how I believe things to be. Then we have the crown chakra. Okay, and the crown chakra is like universal wisdom and knowledge, and being able to understand that to its fullest capacity. And again, when all the other chakras are working in alignment, the crown chakra works and is in alignment. When the other chakras are not in alignment, the crown chakra has a harder time giving that information. So with abilities like mediumship, with abilities like psychic ability, when our chakras are all working well and things are happening for us, that's when we can express these psychic abilities or these soul expressions, okay? And I say soul expressions because, I mean, it goes into some territory here that I feel is a little more advanced, okay? So when we're talking about, okay, so I'll just go into this. So when we're talking about psychic and mediumship ability, we're also talking about, I feel like, abilities through the act of kind of like an osmosis or an absorption, and I'll explain what I mean by that. So in way back, okay, there were these powers, I guess you would call it, these supernormal abilities. Supernormal meaning that I feel like everyone has these abilities to some extent. Now, these abilities are exceptional. These are incredible abilities. These are incredible gifts. And so when I say people have these to an extent, I mean to a very small extent, because most people don't develop these to the extent I'm talking about. But I'll talk about the ultimate expression of psychic ability and how we can go about that. First off, though, let's talk about feminine versus masculine psychic energies. Okay, so when we're talking about the feminine versus the masculine psychic energy, I'm not talking about a versus match where we're fighting each other, the sexes against each other. No, I'm talking about the different ways that psychic ability expresses itself through the divine masculine and the divine feminine. Okay, so the divine feminine is something that makes it it's kind of like mediumship would be the divine feminine, or psychic ability would be the divine feminine, right? And so from that kind of ability, we can go into other things as well. So, hey, buddy. Hey. From that, we can go into these other abilities as well. So then we have the divine masculine. The divine masculine is more about kind of the doing, more about that kind of stuff. And it works in a similar way to kind of like if the divine feminine is subjective in nature, right? Like only you can see it, only you can experience it. Then the divine feminine is, or the divine masculine is objective, where the divine feminine is subjective. And so I feel like that's kind of a basic way to describe these abilities, but not like anything in depth. But when we're talking about these other parts of these abilities, or these other parts of these expressions, which I'll go into, let's see, what was it? So the siddhis, these different abilities, right? These different abilities come in and they represent themselves in different ways. Generally, these siddhis, which basically stands for psychic perfection or psychic perfections, generally these are not done by the public. These are not done in any way, shape, or form in the public eye. These are usually people that have developed these spiritual abilities over a lifetime, or I guess several, if you want to believe in it like that. But they've developed these abilities and these kinds of ways of expressing themselves through siddhis. And siddhis, siddhis, these have a very profound way of psychic expression. So the way you could think of these is like the way of expressing something through absorption of something else. So the person or the guru, the yogi, whatever you'd want to call it, they go into a meditative state, and when they're in this meditative state, they focus on one thing. It can be anything that they can imagine focusing on. And when they do that, they express this ability in an outward way where other people can see it too. So from focusing on these images, or from focusing on these kinds of psychic abilities, they're able to take it to the next level. So this can be stuff like materialization, being able to grow big or small, being able to do it. It's insane, being able to do all these kinds of crazy things. And generally speaking, we don't see that in the world anymore. But there's a lot of things that happened back before there was YouTube, before there was all this other stuff. And what's really interesting is if you look up, there's these giant footprints and handprints, and they were made way, way back when, and they're human. They're like human footprints and handprints, but it's very fascinating to see how these were formed, because it's like they were pressed into the rock, like the person melded with the rock, and then they left a handprint or a footprint, and then they stepped back out. So way back when, I think it's like 10 or 20,000 years ago, they didn't have tools to do anything like that. I don't think they had anything that could go into the rock and that could make these kinds of impressions. It's something interesting to look at. It's a fascinating subject. But that being said, with psychic ability, or with mediumship ability, that's going to be something where we're focused more on kind of how to connect, or what it is that we're connecting with. So, best way I can describe it. So we talked about the clairs, right? And the clairs are the different ways of psychic expression with the physical or the psychical senses, as we could talk about that. But there is also this as well. So we have Mediumship Development Part 2. I made these slides here. Okay, so I'll just talk a little bit about this. So when we're talking about mediumship development or psychic development in any way, we have to talk about the different types of consciousness that are involved here. So these are the consciousness states that mediums go through to communicate effectively with spirit. There are 3 states that we will be looking at today, okay? So the 3 states are, we have the conscious mind, the subconscious mind, and then the superconscious mind, okay? And the superconscious mind comes more into effect when I explain kind of what we're talking about here. Okay, so we'll talk about the conscious mind first. So the conscious mind is what we are using now. We kind of need it to understand things or have conversations. I am teaching in my conscious mind. Hopefully everyone in here will understand what I am saying in your conscious mind. The conscious mind represents I, myself. It represents me or it represents you. The conscious mind is about the self, right? So it represents I, myself. This is where our everyday consciousness resides. It is where we primarily exist as people. It is the taskmaster and it likes to get things done. It is based much more objectively in reality. Okay, so my conscious mind is in reality. Your conscious mind is in reality. We have a shared reality. We have a shared way of existing. And so that's kind of what we're talking about. Hey, how are you doing, Lady Libra? Okay, so the subconscious mind, right? The subconscious mind represents fears and phobias learned over time, such as a fear of spiders or a fear of water. Beyond holding on to fears and phobias and traumas, the subconscious mind also holds on to all of our memories and is responsible for some fantastic dreams. The subconscious mind is also where our psychic ability lies. Oh, thank you, Lady Libra. Much love to you too. We're talking about mediumship development and the different levels of consciousness that take effect here. So when we're talking about the subconscious mind, okay, when we're talking about the subconscious mind, we're talking about the ability to be able to kind of tune into, if you imagine that we're in a house, okay, that we exist in a house, if we can go to that basement level of the house and like look around and see what's going on, a lot of us need to kind of clear our subconscious, need to sort of organize things, and we need to go down into that basement to organize. Okay, so it's kind of something like that if you want to think of it as a house. All right, so hold on one second. Okay, so then we're going to go here. The subconscious mind, and I'm going to go a little bit further into the subconscious mind, okay? The subconscious mind, this is where our emotions and traumas, as well as memories, are stored. This is a powerful place for psychic ability. A lot, if not all, of our dreams come from the subconscious mind. We also have feelings and imagination that originates here as well. The subconscious mind is precisely why children can be adept at being mediums or psychics, or just very sensitive to spirit, Generally speaking, a 3 to 7-year-old has not yet had their imagination taken away, so to speak. A lot of us have family and friends that told us how the world is. Generally, this happens at a young age. Because of that, we lose our connection with an incredibly powerful and psychic part of ourselves. To be great psychics and mediums, we have to reclaim what was taken from us by people who probably had very little idea what they were doing. This is not about blaming anyone, but rather claiming and taking back a part of ourselves that may have gotten a bit dusty over the years, okay? So when we're talking about, when I say a part that's been gotten dusty over the years, when we're talking about mediumship, or primarily mediumship, I feel, but it can also work with psychic ability, it's important for us to realize that the adult imagination is imperative to psychic and mediumistic expression. We have to have the adult imagination. If something happened when we were younger and our imagination was taken away, or something happened and it sort of ended our way of expressing ourselves in that imaginative way, we need to do something to kind of bring that back. If we want to do psychic work, if we want to be really good psychics, we have to get our imagination back. The adult imagination is very different from the child imagination. Okay, so the child's imagination, the child has like flights of fancy. They have fantasies. They're like in this space and they're hypnotized by it. When we're young, that's kind of how we are. Up until we hit about age 7, then we kind of snap out of that hypnotic state. But it is like until we're about 7 years old, we're in a hypnosis. And this imaginative world just guides us and leads us to all these fantastical things. Okay? If we keep that into adulthood, what happens is instead of the imagination guiding us, we get to guide the imagination. We get to decide what we do and where we go. So the imagination is like a canvas. Okay? So what you can imagine this being is like, I want you to think of it like this. So if we're talking about the imagination, think of it like a person setting up a room, like an art studio, okay? And when this person sets up this art studio, there's all the paints you can imagine. There's these paint brushes, there's an easel, there's a canvas, there's newspaper on the floor. Like it's all set up, it's all ready to go. Everything's ready, brand new, and we're just waiting for something to be painted on that canvas. What we're doing with our imagination is we're prepping the space for there to be paint on the canvas. All we're doing is prepping the space, okay? Once the space has been prepped, or once we've done a meditation, or once we've gone through the steps to relax ourselves and our mind, then we allow the psychic impressions to come in. The psychic impressions are the paintings that come through. The psychic expressions are the creative parts that come through. So the adult imagination sets up the scenario where spirit or psychic ability can communicate with us, but it's up to us to interpret the ways the art looks, right? And generally spirit speaks through symbolic language. Okay, there's visually they speak through symbolic language, but usually, like clairvoyance wise, but usually with like clairaudience, it's usually much more straightforward. They don't speak in riddles or rhymes. It's usually much more straightforward, but you're hearing a voice, okay? But when we're talking about clairvoyance, which seems to be kind of a popular one, spirit speaks through symbols. And those symbols can be symbolic or they can actually be literal. It's up to us as we learn how spirit communicates with us or how psychic ability communicates with us to discern if what we're seeing is literal or if it's symbolic, okay? I've had a lot of messages that have come through as I've been working, and I'm still trying to understand it to this day, but I've had messages come through as I've worked, and if I would have told the person the literal meaning of what I saw instead of the symbolic meaning of what I saw, that would have been right. Or vice versa. If I told the person the symbolic meaning instead of the literal meaning, that would have been correct. And so that's something you can use going forward, but you get a feel for it as time goes on. It just takes time, okay? So, is there any questions? Does anyone have any questions so far? Okay. So, let's go to the next page here. Okay, so we're going to be talking about rhubarb, what I do to prepare myself besides meditation is just allowing myself to be present with whatever's going on as much as I can. If we want to develop psychically, the best way we can do that is to be fully present in our surroundings now. All of us have distractions. Hi, Shireen June. Hopefully I'm saying that name right. Yeah, I can do some questions if you have some. I can do one for 10 or we can do 3 for 25. You save a little bit money with the 25 one. If you want to do super chat, it would be a little bit more because YouTube takes a percentage of the revenue. So I ask for a little bit more that way, but Cashapp or PayPal, would be cheaper. So Cashapp or PayPal is the $10 a question. But yeah, so Shireen, when you say general, if you have, okay, let me put it this way. If you have a general question, I'll take those, right? But if it's like a general love reading, I don't do those. But if you have a question like psychic ability, or you're wondering about something that could benefit everyone listening, then I don't charge for those kinds of questions. But if it's like a personal question that you have, or something that you're wondering about that affects you personally, then that to me would be, that would be the one question for $10 or 3 questions for $25, like I have down there. Okay, so how do I prepare myself besides meditation? The one thing that I do, like I said, is to be fully present with whatever's going on. General message from spirit. I could do a general message from spirit, but it would be for everybody. It wouldn't, I could do that though. Yeah, I can do that, Shireen. If you stick around just for a second, because I'm going to address Rhubarb's question, we can do that. Okay, so the way I do it is to be kind of involved in whatever I'm doing, okay? If I'm going to be doing a reading for somebody, I make sure that I make that my prime perspective that I'm focusing on. Meditation is great, but I understand people don't have time for it. I once heard an adage that went something like this. And I don't believe in just starting out meditating for 30 minutes. And a lot of gurus have said that. A lot of gurus have talked about just do a meditation practice, start with 30 minutes and then work yourself up. I believe that's very asinine, okay? Okay, so we'll do that. We'll do some general messages from spirit and we'll see what kind of comes through, okay, guys? I think that sounds like a good idea. So Shireen, you did a good job. I like that. But when we're talking about, let's see. It's important to be involved and it's important for people to know. Thank you very much, Shireen. That's very sweet of you. That's very kind of you to do that. Hold on. Okay, I'm going to put you on the list here. Just give me a second. Okay, so let me just put your name down here and then I put an amount. So let's do. All right. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Love the energy, love the vibe. Okay, so I'm going to be right back. We'll do some spirit messages, but to conclude, I'm just going to go to the bathroom real quick. But to conclude on what I was saying, allow yourself to be in the moment, be in the present. And then another thing you can do to get messages from spirit or psychic messages is if you allow yourself to be curious about whatever it is that you're going to be doing. Curiosity, in my opinion, it's the sister emotion to love, right? And love and appreciation and gratitude, those things are what bring through spirit messages. But curiosity can also bring through spirit messages because when we're curious about something, that shows that we care. That shows that we're invested in something. We're curious. We're wondering what's going to happen. And that kind of mentality, the universe likes to reward with getting information, getting answers. And spirit also likes that as well when we're talking about connecting. Okay, so I will be right back and we'll look at that. Hopefully, Rhubarb, that helps. Meditation, though, in my opinion, really is good. But the one thing we can do moving forward with meditation, if meditation is hard for us, the one thing I would suggest is take some time for yourself, not a long amount of time. Have 2 or 3 minutes a day and start meditating with that 2 or 3 minutes. And how you can start the meditating process, you can either count back from 100 or you can count up from 100. But when we're counting back from 100, so if we go 100, 99, 98, what I want you to do is I want you to count in your head
and I want you to go all the way down to 0. Each time you count, you go further and further into yourself, and at first you're going to have thoughts. You're going to have thoughts come in. You're going to have things come in. I want you to see those thoughts and say, okay, thank you, and wish them well. I don't want you to try and resist the thoughts. I don't want you to give in to the thoughts. I want you to just observe them and say, okay, and be neutral as you can about those thoughts. Eventually you'll stop having them, and we can start to focus on meditation. But do 10 seconds of meditation. Okay, if you don't want to do the counting down thing, just have your mind be blank for 5 to 10 seconds. Once you can do that on a consistent basis, then have your mind be blank for 15 seconds. Have it be blank for 20 seconds. If that's something you feel like you can do, that's going to be a great way to do this, because I feel like the way people talk about developing a meditation as a skill or an ability, they talk about it in the same way someone would say, okay, you've never worked out before in your life. Well, how about you run a marathon? Doesn't make any sense. That does not make any sense. So if someone has not meditated, or if meditation is something that's kind of difficult for people, let's work on building that skill up slowly over time, rather than saying, well, just meditate 30 minutes a day. First off, I've never known anyone that just started meditating 30 minutes when they've never meditated before. Doesn't make a lot of sense, right? We need to slowly work up. We need to do what's called chunking, and we need to do that in small steps. Okay, so, and that goes with anything in life. But anyway, I'm going to come back and we'll do some spirit messages, okay? So give me just a second, you guys. I'm coming right back, and I will see you in just a second. Okay, so let's do
I'm here. I'm here. Okay, hold on. So, I'm clear audience. So meditation without thought is kind of hard. I've been interrupted by other people's general thoughts, but I don't. Okay. Hopefully it's relatable. Yes, hopefully for us all. Yes, he appears to have gotten lost though. You know what I did? They say don't fall in, and I actually did fall in this time. So, long story short, had to change my clothes. Luckily, I have duplicates of everything I own. In fact, this is the only outfit that I actually have. I'm not wearing pants, and so that part wasn't difficult. But the rest of it, yeah, I did fall in. So, just if you guys were wondering. Fall up. Well, I've done that too. I've fallen up. I've fallen down. I've got back down, but I've got up again. You're never going to keep me down. And then it goes on like that. I will. I'll stop. Okay, so I got the trusty iPad. Okay, I use this for scrying to get information. It helps me to kind of focus. Other mediums and psychics use this too. So I'll kind of explain a little bit about what I'm doing, and then we can go from there, okay? So I would say I've got my big boy pants on, but we know that's not true, so I'm just going to start doing this. All right, so let's do this here. So I'm going to say this right here, guys. So as I'm doing this kind of scrying, Shireen, hopefully I'm saying that right. A message for everyone in the audience. Perfect. Okay, so Shireen, what color? Because I'm going to be scrying. I've got the whole rainbow colors to go with. Let's do this here. What color do you feel like would be representative of everyone's energy that would be receiving a message? Just close your eyes for a second and give me a color. I feel like I know what color you're going to say. I could be wrong. Okay, pink. I was going more with a purple motif. More of a purple, light teal. Pink is good. I like pink. So I'm going to go with pink here. And let's see what we can get for everyone. So I'm going to take my glasses off. And let's see what we got. This is a message for everyone, which this is very kind that Shireen did this. So thank you again for doing this. Let's see what we can get here. So Spirit, what is something that everyone what is a general theme that everyone's going through right now, and what can we kind of glean from that kind of perspective? Let me put stuff up here. Hold on. Okay, so the first thing I'm getting, and then I'm going to continue to get these messages here, is purple and pink. Perfect. So okay. So the first thing I have here is perception, and then I feel like what Spirit's trying to tell me to do now. I'm doing scrying, or not scrying. I'm doing I'm basically putting my pen on the iPad screen, and I'm scribbling back and forth, and from that kind of vibration I can get messages. So one of the things that I feel like Spirit wants to come through with is perception. When we're talking about perception, Spirit mentioned specifically the house on top of the hill, right? And I'll explain what that kind of means from what I'm understanding. So from someone looking down and they're looking up, right? From someone looking down from a certain perspective and they're looking up, they see that there is a house on the hill. They see that that house is on the hill, and they see that maybe that person they're well off, maybe they're doing well in their life, right? And that's kind of a status symbol that we have. The higher up we go in the physical world,
the better off we are. But we don't know what's going on in that house. We don't know what's going on in that kind of situation. Now, if we change the word house with the word person, that makes even more sense. The higher people are up on the social ladder or on different ladders, different social, how would I say that? Different social, words are escaping me. I guess different social classes, right? We view these people as having absolutely everything they could use and everything they could need to move forward in life, but really status. Okay, status is a good word. Perfect. Okay. We use this as a way to describe the people that have a higher status in the world, people that have these kinds of things. A lot of what we're going after in life is this status that everyone's talking about. And in order for us to feel successful as humans, we need to be overly productive and we need to have this sense of status, right? And a lot of what happens with how humans work and how humans operate is, I don't know if you guys have ever been to a party or I've never been to one. You'll have to tell me what it's like, but I don't know if you guys have ever been to a party where someone is asking a question to you. They ask you, usually a first question they ask is, what do you do for a living? And that question has so much weight and so much power because that person is going to decide if you're worth talking to or not from your answer, okay? And that may sound harsh and that may not be true in all situations, but a lot of the time people ask these questions to size things up, okay? And from what I've seen and from what I've experienced personally is that we view these people as having so much, but it's actually not the case. A lot of the times, millionaires and billionaires have so much that they haven't worked on in themselves because they've distracted themselves with physical pursuits. No, that question, I agree. Never liked that question either. That question is pretty disgusting, to be honest. It's like, does it matter? Does it matter what I do for a living? I'm here right now. Talk to me like I'm a person. Anyway, but they use their lives chasing physical pursuits, and at the end of their lives, they can't buy more of it. You could have $1 trillion, at least in today's climate and time, and in the future, I'm sure you can buy more life. That's going to be a weird time to live in, but right, material distractions, matrix, ego, absolutely. And so people view this. A lot of people view that that's the way you want to be. You want to be distracted with money. You want to be so successful that you only sleep 2 hours a night, okay? Or a few hours a week, right? You want to be that successful. But what happens is those people never end up finding the truth about their own lives. And so I feel like when Spirit's talking about the house on the hill, it's important to remember that just because the house may be nicer, that does not mean that the soul is better. That does not mean what's going on there. I'll tell you this right now. When we pass on from this life, we do not take our house, we do not take our possessions with us in any way, shape, or form. Those stay here. Those are only ours for a while. Everything we have right now is borrowed. Absolutely everything we have in this life is borrowed. Nothing is ours. The only thing we take with us, and I've said this before on the channel many, many times, the only thing we take with us is we take love and we take experience. That's it. We take those with us. And that's going to be what we have in the afterlife. We have love, we have experience, we have this sense of like, I got to do that. I got to experience this, those kinds of situations. Absolutely. Knowing oneself is real wealth. Okay. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I feel like we have perception. Okay. And then purpose is another one that I feel like is coming up. Love is life 100. Absolutely. Absolutely. So we have this also coming up as a concept. Okay. So we have this word right here, purpose, right? Not porpoise. Porpoise is a dolphin. We have purpose. And this right here is something that comes up to me. And what this means is kind of what we're spending our lives doing. Okay. A lot of people talk about a divine purpose or this or that or the other. I do not think that there is anything more divine. Okay. Like me doing mediumship versus someone working at a store versus someone being a doctor versus all of this stuff is life and we're living it. Okay. No purpose is better than any other purpose. I don't think any purpose is better than any other purpose. Without certain people being in our lives, in the background of our lives, reality or society would cease to exist in certain concepts, right? So it's important to have perspective, right? We're going back to perspective. But it's important to realize that every single person is important no matter what they're doing. Now, there was another thing that I heard not too long ago. This is more from my, right now, spirit's starting to step back a little bit, and it's more my perspective. So this right here is something that I feel like is important. So there was a person who links on a chain working, absolutely links on a chain working together, 100%. Absolutely. You can't have links on a chain if there's no links, right? And in order for there to be links, there has to be this kind of union. There has to be a synergistic kind of union or energy that goes out in the world, okay? And so, so a person went to, I'm trying to remember the context that I saw this in, but a person was having trouble understanding themselves and their own sense of self-worth, okay? And that's something I feel like a lot of us struggle with, is our sense of self-worth. Where do I belong? What's going on with me? You know, that kind of situation. And I feel like the answer to that question lies in this. So he was talking to his therapist, and he said, I just don't feel like I matter. I don't feel like anything I do has any weight to it. I just feel like I'm kind of lost in this right here. And then the therapist looked at him and he said, basically he said, do you feel like homeless people matter? Do you feel like if you see someone out on the street and they're homeless and they're looking at you and they need money, do you feel like they matter? And the guy said, well, yeah, of course they do. You know, they matter, right? And then he basically looked at the person and he said, if people like that can matter, and obviously they do tremendously, because, and I'll go into that here in a second, but if people that are in that situation matter, then anyone else can matter. And I'll explain what I'm talking about here in a second. So in this reality right here, we are, and I've said this on the channel, we are human beings, okay? But when we are human being, right, when we are being in our own reality and we're doing our thing, that's considered wrong. That's considered the wrong way to do something. We need to be human doings instead, okay? We need to be doing something always. When we're human doings, then we're productive. We're a part of society, and we're contributing to something. When we are not that way, when we are depressed, when we are anxious, when we can't handle the bare minimum, we are viewed as basically useless, and that is not the case. That has never been the case, and it's something that society likes to kind of pound into you over and over again until we realize that being productive in that sense, it doesn't mean anything. Hold on one second. There we go. And then I'll go here and I'll get rid of that. Sorry, I'm just getting rid of these so you guys can see more of me. Okay. So the primary thing that we have to talk about as we're moving forward is I want you guys to realize that if we go out somewhere, and I've done this too, okay? I've been in this situation. I've had moments where I didn't realize what I was doing, and you know, you get mad at people, things happen, but then you take a step back and you realize that everything that we're doing, everything that's going on in our lives, everything that's going on in anyone's life, that's meaningful to them. And we can either make this life a living hell for somebody else, or we can try to possibly give someone something that we didn't even have, and that's to make their lives better, to make their lives easier in some way. That does not mean that everyone in our lives is going to receive that kind of energy, right? There are people that don't deserve that from us. That's something I want to talk about, because in the spiritual realm, absolutely. In the spiritual realm, I've noticed a lot of people we tend to develop people-pleasing habits. And when I say we, I'm talking about myself as well. People-pleasing habits stem from when we were at a very young age. We were told that other people's comfort should come at the cost of our own. And because of that, we'll do anything we can to make someone else comfortable, even if it means that we're very uncomfortable. And we need to step away from that way of thinking so that we can embrace our own divine energy. Because we've given ourselves away for so long to so many people that we need to instead take that power back. I've said this so many times. People have come on this channel, and I'm happy to help them. Absolutely, validation. I'm happy to help them with whatever it is they have a question on, because if I can do something, if me and my spirit team can help in that way, that's awesome, right? But a lot of them come and they say, so-and-so left me, this has happened. And I realize that they have so much love to give, but they've been giving it to the wrong person instead of themselves, right? When we focus on giving ourselves that self-love and that self-validation, that actually is going to help us so much. If we're giving our love to people that do not understand us, right? If we're trying to speak a language that someone has to translate through a filter to try and understand us, then we can't bear our whole soul to that person, right? We have to hold back. We have to keep holding back. But when we're talking about self-love, what's beautiful about that is that we get to decide exactly how deep that goes. We're not going to leave. We're going to stay right there. We're going to work this through. Self-love is absolutely important. And when we're talking about boundaries, that's important too. And the reason why I shifted into talking about boundaries is because the people-pleasing is something that a lot of us in the spiritual community struggle with. I love how much I love. Awesome. See, that's good. That's perfect, actually. We kind of need to fall in love with ourselves, and I know that sounds vain. Right, trauma-based projecting, absolutely trauma-based projecting. And that's something a lot of us do. The people-pleasing part, as we get stronger and as we get to know more, we get to understand things more. And another thing is that if we have these people-pleasing tendencies, right, what can happen is that we become empathic to the point of madness. Because I will say it like this, I've said it before, when we're talking about energy, energy is energy, okay? When we're talking about someone that is in the people-pleaser mindset, right, they're empathic, they can feel other people's emotions. I don't doubt that a bit. I do not doubt that a bit. But what happens is when someone is feeling other people's emotions, they don't get to feel their own emotions. And because of that, they get lost in other people. They try to find identity with other people instead of understanding who they are as a person. And so the thought of loneliness to those people is very, very frightening. And yeah, toxic empathy, absolutely. It comes from a good place. It comes from a good place, but it's misdirected, right? Because we're focused so much on other people, how they're feeling, what's going on with them. Okay, so do you feel like, okay, are you guys understanding what I'm saying so far? We'll go a little bit deeper here. I'm just curious. Or we can elaborate here. Okay. So, like I said, energy is energy regardless. Indeed. Perfect. Awesome. Okay. So energy is energy regardless. When we're talking about empaths and we're talking about stuff like that, 20 years shadow work. Okay, see, that's awesome. That's awesome. 20 years of shadow work. And I feel like I'm starting on my journey to start to do my shadow work. I've read a lot. I understand things, but when it comes to the emotional part, I'm still understanding how deep these emotions go. And it's a lot. It's a lot to deal with, but it's a beautiful journey, right? So as we're talking about this, I said energy is energy, and we were talking about the empath work. Okay, the reason I bring that up is because of this. So an empath is like a sponge. Okay, imagine you have a sponge, you're holding it in your hand. Okay, now the empath, regardless of if you drop the sponge
in dirty or clean water, that sponge is going to soak up that water. The sponge doesn't care. It does not give a shit if it's clean or if it's dirty. It doesn't care. So it takes in that water, and that sponge, the empath, becomes polluted by that kind of energy. That's why it's important to understand this kind of work, to wring ourselves out and to put ourselves in situations where the water is clean, where the emotions are understood, and where we can move forward in a positive, clear direction, right? So hopefully that analogy makes sense. Okay, let me see what else we can get here. It's all about you/us. Always, never others. They reflect our trauma to take accountability and reclaim our power. Absolutely. It's 2 decades, lol, it is, but it's been lonely at times because there's so much happening and others don't even notice how they're affecting incredibly sensitive people. No, and I don't feel like, I almost feel like they're just wired differently. It's kind of like, how do I put that? Hi, writer writing. So right now I'm doing a spirit message, spiritual messages, and I'm focusing on giving a message here. If you want to, you can see kind of how I work, and we can move forward with your question. I do charge either $13.99 for AdSense or for Super Chat if that's what you want to do, or $10 through Cashapp or PayPal if that's what you want to do. There is a link right here if you would like, and that can take you to the payment information. You're good. You're good. It's good to talk about this, Rhubarb. It's good to talk about this. Yes, the reflection of trauma. It keeps going back and forth until something happens to break it and it resolves. Exactly, sure. Yes, the best way to help others is to heal ourselves, lead by example. Okay, and another kind of situation that we can talk about, one of the sayings that I like, there's actually two sayings. I'll go into the one right here. So the one saying is, when we know better, we do better. Okay, I think that's Maya Angelou, or Angelou, I don't know how you say her name. But when we know better, we do better. What that means is that if we did something in the past and it was messed up, or something happened, that stinks that it happened. But now that we know better, we can do better for the future. Ruminating on the past, it doesn't make it go away. Being anxious about the past doesn't help anything, right? And so that's something we can do moving forward, is we can say, okay, yeah, that was my past, but I'm trying to establish a new future. I'm trying to work towards something better now, right? What I didn't know then, I could fill a book with, but I'm starting to understand things now. So please let me try. Let me see what I can do. Now, the other example, or the other saying that I have is this. So okay, let me look it up, because I'm telling you right now, I could butcher it in a way that it would sound like I'm insulting people. I'm good at that. I'm good at butchering stuff. So hold on one second. Let me look at what the saying is. I'm just kidding about hurting people. I'm just saying sayings are kind of difficult for me sometimes. So let's look at this. So hold on one second here.
Okay, here it is right here. So I found it, right? Through my use of the Google machine and the vast power of the internet, I found it. So, if you don't heal what hurt you, you'll bleed on people who didn't cut you. Okay? So, I feel like that's beautiful. That to me is absolutely poetic. So, I'll read it again. If you don't heal what hurt you, you'll bleed on people who didn't cut you. That means if we don't heal the trauma that's going on within us, we could affect people negatively because we are working on we're not working on our unresolved issues, and subconsciously we could be hurting people, right? Is that okay? So awesome. I love that saying. I really love that saying because it really summarizes dealing with trauma, working through that kind of thing. I just think it's beautiful. I really do think that's beautiful. I wished I could have remembered it. That would have been even better. But anyway, so that's kind of the main thing that I feel like Spirit would talk about. I feel like I also keep getting the words like courage and endurance, right? And courage is an interesting one because a lot of people think courage means to be fearless in the face of adversity or to be fearless in something. And I write a lot of poetry in that line. That's cool, Shireen. That's awesome. I love that. Poetry is awesome. Any kind of self-expression in those kinds of ways, that to me helps heal the world. Even if nobody else reads it, I think it really helps. I think it really helps heal. It means vulnerable, absolutely. Integrity. So courage, right? Courage doesn't mean to be fearless. What it means is even if we're scared, we still do it anyway. And to me, that's even more powerful because when we're scared of something and we still do it, that shows that we can move forward. That shows that we get to guide our own ship, right? And that's something I feel that can help inspire us and give us confidence and also help other people too to inspire them. But to be, and there's actually another meaning for it too, because the word coming from the Latin, gotta look this up again. Hold on. I read a lot of stuff, and then my mind goes blank. So give me 1 second. How did that go? Oh yeah, okay. Give me 1 second, guys. So basically the word courage, right, means to run toward the thing that scares us. That's something that we can look at. So cur means to run or to happen. And age, basically it means to run towards what's happening, to run towards it. And basically, yeah, we're going to be scared, right? But when we're uncomfortable, that's when the most growth happens, okay? The another analogy I have, I hope you guys don't mind my analogies. I am working on them. I'm trying to, a lot of these I didn't make up, right? I got these from other people. Some of them I've made up. This one I did not make up. So this was something that I feel like is a pretty powerful one though. So let's take this for example. Okay. Again, I do hope you guys like the analogies. Okay. All right, so if we do this right here, so I'll oh, okay. I'll draw this and I'll show you guys what it is I'm drawing, okay? So we got us some very pink ground. All right? I stuck with the pink color that we were talking about that looks more lavender, but trust me, it's pink. It is pink on my end. That sounds weird when I say it out loud, pink on my end. Anyway, so when I do this and I go into some different things here,
I'll show you this right here. So I'm gonna give you an example of something. So let's do this, and I'll show you guys what it is I'm doing here. So this right here, this part is this right here is the fertile soil, and that right there, that is a seed that is planted in the soil. Okay? So what happens with a seed that's planted in a soil that's taken care of, right? The seed, of course, has a shell. Now, when the shell is broken, the seed starts to think, as soon as the shell starts to break, the seed says to itself, oh no, I'm dying. This is the end for me. This is it. I'm no longer going to be anything anymore. I'm dying. This is my fragility coming out. I'm done. Okay? And then the seed cracks and it cracks and it cracks. And then eventually, from the darkness that the seed was planted in, comes this beautiful plant or vegetable or whatever it happens to be. But the seed at first thought that it was being destroyed when it was being cracked. But what was really happening was there was an immense, powerful change happening within it. And instead of fearing that journey, if we embrace it instead, we can understand the metamorphosis. But humans have a tendency to hold on to fear and to let go of love and to let go of growth. And so we need to change that over time. But the seed thought it was dying and it was becoming stronger. It was becoming what it was meant to be. Likewise with humans, a lot of times when we think something will break us and leave us broken, it can actually transform us for the better because we learn lessons. And through pain and through suffering, humans learn the most lessons. And I know that's uncomfortable to talk about, but that is absolutely true. Pain and suffering is an amazing teacher when it comes to learning about ourselves and where it is that we need to grow as people. Okay, thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Hopefully you guys liked that. Absolutely, transformation, expansion, that's going to be something, it absolutely goes in there. And then, well, I feel like we'll leave it at that. But hopefully you guys, hopefully that made sense to you. It seemed like it was making sense, so that's good. But that's something that I think we're all going through. We're all kind of working through these different ways of being, these different ways of feeling. You're very, very welcome. Thank you for helping to support the channel. I really appreciated that. That's what helps, people like you that help to support the channel and help me to keep doing what I want to do, right? This is something that I am passionate about. And yeah, so perspective made lots of sense. Perfect. Awesome. I love that. Well, thank you. Thank you, Shireen. Again, I hope I'm saying the name right. I have the hardest time with names. I know how to say rhubarb because I know what rhubarb is. Thank you. You're very sweet. I appreciate that. I'm still learning. I'm still learning with my gift. I'm still growing, but I really appreciate the compliment. And yeah. Okay, perfect. And everything that I said, absolutely everything that I said, absolutely goes into psychic development, goes into mediumship development. Okay, every single thing relates to that, because when we're talking about development of the self, we're also talking about development of the soul, right? And we are always learning. That's another thing. If we want to be good psychics or healers or just people, I think to continue learning is something that can absolutely help us. If we're always learning, then there's not a lot of downsides to always learning. It means that we're always humble. It means that we're always ready to be adaptable. We're always ready to change our opinions.
not because we were necessarily wrong or right or whatever, but because we want to see what that's like. And life is all about experiences, and the flavor of life and the experiences that we're going through. It would be super boring if every experience was sour and blue. You know what I mean? We need to have experiences that are red and sweet. We need to have experiences that are yellow and whatever yellow is. And then we need to have experiences that are, different colors. But we need to have that kind of, yes, and of course, new perspectives. And that's difficult as we go on. I don't know what the hell I'm saying. That's difficult as we go about our lives, because when we get older, our actual brain starts to kind of say, you know what, I don't want to keep being uncomfortable. When we're younger, we seek out those experiences much more readily. When we get older, it's harder for us to rediscover that passion and rekindle that within ourselves. But eventually, we can get the brain into a space where it wants to learn new things. It wants to understand new things. And the primary way we do that, and I said this earlier, and I'm sorry guys if I'm rambling, one topic leads to another, but another way we do that is we do the chunking that I was talking about. Whatever ability or skill that we want to learn, I want you guys to be humble, and I want you guys to realize that you're new at whatever it is you're trying to do, and don't set the bar up so high that when you fail, you say, see, I'm a failure. That's self-sabotage. What we can do instead is when we're learning a new skill, we start with the very basics. Okay, like I said, meditation. Start with 5 to 10 seconds. Okay, and keep practicing that. Keep practicing. And with any other skill, start very small and learn very small things at first. And if it doesn't seem like things are happening, keep going, but keep going at a small pace. Just keep taking the steps. I know there's that voice that tells us to hurry up and to not be gentle with ourselves. But the gentle voice that I'm talking about, we can eventually establish over time. It does take time, but it's not impossible to develop that gentle voice and way of speaking to ourselves. But it does take time, and it does take practice. And what's funny, right? Every failure brings wisdom. Absolutely. Absolutely. What's funny, in a way, I mean funny in a way that's like not necessarily haha funny, but how does my hair look? Oh man. I look like Clark Kent, but like the Clark Kent that's balding a little bit. Like I'm not Superman, but I'm kind of like, I'm just man. Anyway, I'm gonna put my hat back on. Let's do that here. So when I'm talking here about, let's see, what was it? Learning something new, going out of our way to learn something new, it's important for us to realize that it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to be in that space. But like I said, if we can get comfortable with being uncomfortable, that's going to bring us the most growth. But that's also the hardest thing to do as we get older. But speaking with gentleness and kindness to ourselves is going to be the way we do that, because I feel like a lot of us have had that voice that's unreasonable talk to us, and it has not done anything. And I'll say this again. Tough love. People talk about tough love. Tough love is soft hate. That's the way I like to think of it. And tough love does not help people. A lot of people do not respond to tough love. It's not something that helps people. It's basically a way of dismissing someone and saying, oh, well, that's tough love. That's what I'm giving you. No. Anyway, but yeah, it's important to challenge ourselves. It's important to keep that going. And I was gonna say what's funny, but not haha funny, is the fact that I've had moments where I've tried to be gentle, and I've seen this in other people. I've tried to be gentle with myself, and when I've tried to be gentle with myself, I keep being harder and harder on myself, and I go into like this spiral, and then I keep getting mad at myself for not being gentle, and that keeps, basically you spiral at that point in time. And it's important to take a step back and really breathe, and then become the observer and realize what's wrong with saying that voice that's saying all these negative things. How do we know it's right? Give me the evidence. Show me the evidence that what this voice is saying is right. When it's not this gentle voice, when it's not this loving voice, okay? Yeah, juggling the ego, absolutely. Hold on one second here. Hold on one second. What helps me at those times is to thank myself for wanting good things, because that's what it boils down to. Absolutely. Stay out of the headspace. Too much leads to suffering. Yes. Heart space is much more expansive. Absolutely, it is. Absolutely. And with that being said, guys, it is 11. I've been live for about 3 hours. Thank you, Monty. Thank you. Yeah, I've been live for about 3 hours. And so I think this little guy's gonna head off to the bedroom, gonna close my eyes and get whatever the hell 40 winks is. I thought it was an exercise. Turns out it's when you sleep. Apparently, I don't know. Anyway, I will talk to you guys. I'll probably see you guys on Monday. Okay. So on Monday, Monday, 8 o'clock is when I start. 8 o'clock, 8 p.m. 8 p.m. is when I start, and usually I'm off by 10:30 or 11. And so I'll see you guys there. Everyone take care. Have a beautiful weekend, and I will see you guys ready and willing to go on Monday at 8 p.m. So take care, guys. Thank you so much, Shireen and Rhubarb and Monty Farmer and everyone else, okay? Absolutely. Much love and big hugs. 100%. Okay? I'm a soft, cuddly teddy bear. I just have to throw that out there. So thank you, everybody, and thank you, Shireen, for having that beautiful experience there where there was messages. I thought that was awesome. So thank you so much. And everybody, I will see you next time, okay? Take care, guys.